Max, Nora, Abby, and Ginny, there's such a shift. And, you know, justice for Max.
Justice for Max.
Hello, lovers and learners. Today I'm joined by someone whose voice has become a mainstay in culture and conversation. Sylvia Obell is a journalist, culture commentator, and on-air talent whose work has consistently amplified Black stories with honesty, humor, and heart. You've probably heard her on the Scotty and Sylvia show, seen her hosting and creating with platforms like Netflix's Strong Black Lead and BET, or you're probably currently subscribed to her Substack, Sincerely Sylvia. Sylvia's bylines have Grace Essence, Cosmopolitan, Elle, and New York Magazine, where she's profiled icons like Zendaya, SZA, and Serena Williams, Lizzo, and Issa Rae. And that's just like the short list, y'all. Honestly, you probably know her best as your inner conscious, who said exactly what you were thinking on Threads last week. Sylvia, I'm so excited to have you here to talk all things Ginny and Georgia season 3. Welcome.
Thank you. That was such a beautiful intro.
Yeah.
Thank
Listen,
you,
I was like, come correct. I mean, you're a goat, okay?
Until somebody reads the resume, and I'm like, that does sound like I've been doing this for about 10, 12 years, huh?
Come on, in the game. Sylvia, cover story Obell, okay? So we're going to get into all the things. I mean, these writers took season 3 to another level.
Okay, because I feel like that's the threads I posted that made you hit me up about this, because I said, I don't know who came into the Ginny and Georgia room at halftime, writers room at halftime, and said, we're winning, okay?
My
Switch
God,
it
today.
up. Step up. We're cooking with grease moving forward, because it started last season, and then this season, like, these two last seasons, it's like a completely different level of writing that's going on. And you know me, because I be looking people up. When I did go look up one of my favorite episodes, when I said, I gotta see, I looked up the name, I saw who wrote it, I Googled her, she was a Black woman. And I said, of course.
And is.
Of course.
And is. Like, I just want to be in the room. I mean, season 4, I know we're getting to this mental health thing. They need a mental health consultant. Let's go. Because the way... I mean, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but we are going to start with like the depiction of the mental health and emotional dynamics. And I feel like just starting with Ginny herself, just from a therapist perspective, like I feel like this is like one of the most honest depictions of mental health, especially like it's not, surface level mental health. We're talking about a girl who has dealt with depression, who has dealt with, self-injury. Right?
Yes,
like you don't see that quite often. I feel like when growing up, actually, people used to talk about like cutting and all of that, but this right here, I feel like it has tapered off. And so I'm really interested in knowing like what stood out to you the most about how the show handled her in therapy and just mental health overall this season.
I think like what stood out is interesting because so many things stood out. But when it comes to Ginny particularly, I like how they're showing nothing's a quick solve. Yes. I like how they're showing that like going to therapy is the first step, but it's not going to cure you immediately. I think so many times people, especially our generation, we want things quick. Like Gen Z, like we want things immediately. Like, okay, fix me. Let's go. I've been here for a year. Why am I still considering burning? Why is this the thing that I'm still struggling with? And like that it's an ongoing journey and not something that is just fixed and then it's done. Like we spent, for Ginny, I guess 16, 15 years, some of us 30 years with the wounds that we're there to fix. It's not going to be fixed in a year or two. And I think that's like a thing that I don't know if people talk about enough. And so I really love that it's a slow burn of growth. And I love how much they're showing how much your parents play a role in what you have and you're dealing with. Because, baby, a lot of times we want to just say, because, and I get it, I feel the same way. Like, our parents have done so much for us. I mean, just childbirth and pregnancy alone, it's like, whatever you want, girl, you can have it. But when we're honest about, I mean, nobody's perfect, and childhood trauma is real. You do not get away unscathed. I think somebody once told me, like, having a child is like picking up a glass every day. Your fingerprints are going to be on it, like, whether you want to or not. And I thought that was such a good metaphor, because it's like, there's just no way you can be that responsible and you don't leave a mark. And so I love the way that her therapist ties in her parents and, like, the relationship and their dynamic into this issue that she may not have connected with them prior.
Season 2 definitely helped you kind of see, like, the backstory and unpacking. There are so many things, like, outside of her control. And then season 3 was like, okay, like, the strategy, the plan, like, it built on that. Because even when she was talking to her therapist and she was just saying, like, I'm just so upset that I'm still here, and, you know, just all of the things. And her therapist was like, we can rage, we can cry, and then we enact the plan. And then she ran it through with her. What's the plan?
What's the plan?
What's the plan? What's the strategy? Because that's the area that you have control. You don't have control over your feelings. You don't have control over the emotions that pop up, but you do have control over the response to the emotions.
Yes.
And I think that was just fabulous. With the show showing how therapists can, yes, help you unpack so you get the backstory and all that. And not that it's necessary to do that. But for Ginny, we're seeing unpacking, backstory, plus strategy and how it works together, right? Because she understands through the unpacking, my behavior is tied to when I tend to feel this way because of these experiences. So when I notice that I'm experiencing certain things, I tend to feel this way, which will usually lead me to want to self-injure. So I get it now, and this is what I can do.
Yeah.
And I was man.
And I love also that they show, if you're brave enough to be vulnerable with your family about what you're going through, how the people who may even have been the ones to trigger you can then be the ones to support you. Because I think there's multiple occasions in this season where both Zion and Georgia are like, are you burning? They know her triggers. They know what to look for. And there's actually a certain scene where Georgia is banging on the door as Ginny's about to burn because she knows, and she's talking her down from it. And she wouldn't have known to do that if she never, like, in season 1, she never knew to do that because she never knew it was an issue. And I love, like, just that show of, it takes a village, you know, to heal. It takes a village to wound. It takes a village to heal, child.
Yeah, because you can heal in community, right? And her therapist says, like, we're only as sick as our secrets. Secrets hold power. So you have her mom who's able to, you know, because I bet her mom is afraid. Jordan's afraid. You know, she doesn't want to see her child hurt. But in response to that fear, she's like, I'm going to protect my child. I'm going to stick up for her and advocate for her and try to keep her grounded in this moment where she's flailing. And then you see Ginny actually opening up to her friend Bracia and saying, hey, like, I self-injure. And Bracia's like, okay. And she's like, I get it. Like, there's so much power in peer validation, because you see a lot of her interactions with her parents and the adults in her life, but to now see her opening up to someone who's, you know, in her age range, who can only, I mean, who can only imagine, like, how you deal with the pressures of, you know, high school and all of these things. And it's just like, wow, like, my parents can be there, yes, but there's power in friendship.
With Abby's eating disorder, that was another moment where I saw friendship and community, like, in that, like, in action. Because I don't know how healthy it is that Ginny and Nora went about it this way, but I love that they said, let's come in gentle. Like, did you see this? I see this. Like, can we come together and talk to her about this? And then the way in their teenage minds were like, let's just start listing off our issues, and maybe she won't feel alone. Like, you know, they were like, well, I do this. And I do this, and she's like, you know, and I self-harm. And then Nora's like, I dress up like a unicorn and do makeup on TikTok live. And everybody was like, wait, what? Like, but I love that they were like, we're just gonna keep shouting out our flaws and the secrets till you feel comfortable enough to tell us one of yours. And it was, I loved that scene because it kind of, it eased the tension of it and made Abby feel less alone in how her pain is being personified through this eating disorder. You know, it's like we don't see this as you less than or weaker. This is just your thing. We have our things, and in the same way you want to help support us through ours, we want to help support you through yours. And I thought that was very beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very age appropriate, right?
Yeah.
It's very age appropriate, like to see these girls who are in high school who haven't figured it out, and they're, you know, they're having an emotional response to their friend going through something they know is not the healthiest, but it's just like, what do we say? And it's just like the goal at the end of the day is we don't want you to feel alone by any means necessary, right? And then that's how they decide to show up. And I mean, we'll talk about the friendships in a little bit, but I just think that it is a little fast. I know you want to jump there, but I thought that it is it is
it's
pretty
your show. I love being a guest. Lead me, guide me.
I cannot with you. It's about healing in community, like just kind of segueing into Ellen and Georgia. Like Georgia, you know, she came into Wellsbury not really like trying to make friends, and then her and Ellen end up having this friendship. And I think that for the teenage girl who became a mom, who's always on the run, never really had female friendship, I think that there's a part of Georgia that is healing through her relationship with Ellen, especially just showing how like Ellen is showing up during the trial. We saw her, you know, back up a little bit, but obviously like it's new information, but like you saw throughout the season that they have a real friendship, and Ellen's like, I'm here to support you. Like she went to the prison, well, to the jailhouse to see good sis. Granted, Georgia knew why, but it's just like you didn't see anybody else doing that. And even in the aftermath, when she showed up to her front door and she literally told her, hey, this is what's happening with your son. Do you know how hard it is to be friends with someone and then to have information about what's happening underneath their roof, and to know that some people might take it the wrong way?
It's a hard thing to navigate.
Yeah, and then she still told her, and I just felt like that is love. Like, no matter what people can say about Georgia, I really feel like her relationship with Ellen has allowed her to find safety in friendship, especially female friendship, in another mom who's trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think she's never even had a mom community. She's really been raising these kids on her own. No maternal guides. She don't got her mama. She, you know, her mother-in-law barely like her. You know, like it's you know, she had no friends like Lynette. Love Lynette, but Lynette is so Claire Huxtable coded. But like, you know, all the things. But to your point though, I did see like with Ellen, like the moment I really saw the growth in Georgia was when Ellen was backing away, and Georgia was like, I'm not finna let you do that. When Georgia with her ankle bracelet marched on over across the street and said, talk to me. Like I was like, that is so growth for Georgia, because Georgia season 1 would never.
She would have been like, deuces.
She was too pride. Like,
deuces.
She was too hurt. But the fact that I said, oh yeah, Ellen cracked her open a little bit, because Georgia is very prideful. She's very like, I can do it on my own. IDEPE. Do you know about, like, that's Georgia. You know what I mean? So I was like, this is a breakthrough for her. And I also think, to your point about how she was with Marcus, and telling Ellen about Marcus. By the way, is this not the first white boy you've ever heard named Marcus? I didn't know why people named their child Marcus. Like, it's just, I've never known a white Marcus before.
It was a thought. It was a thought. But I feel,
am I the only one who said Marcus is his name?
But I feel like Ellen is one of those, like, I try to be a conscientious white woman and down for the cause.
I mean, Maxine and Marcus are very like flavorful names for these two white kids.
It's giving living single, right? It's giving living single.
But just one sidebar with that real quick. But when, to your point, Georgia was, I think, very calculated about going to Ellen and Marcus. She didn't do it the very first time. She kind of waited to see a pattern. Like, let me not jump, because I know the risk. I know I don't want to say something and risk this friendship unless I know I'm doing her the favor that like is weighted of possibly her being upset with me. And I think even there was times where she tried to push and Ellen said, we got it. Nope. And Georgia didn't push. Like, it was a very, like, it was like Georgia said it. And then when she saw how Ellen reacted, she was like, okay. Because she knows as a mother, at the end of the day, I can tell you what to do, but I can't tell you what to do. You know what I mean? And all I can do is keep being supportive until you ultimately get there. And I think that is a beautiful thing. 'Cause I think sometimes people feel like, if you don't take my advice immediately, I'm mad at you, out. You know what I mean? And I think Georgia was patient with Ellen. More patient than I was. Because at certain points, I said, Ellen, girl, wake up! The boy needs help!
Well, it's giving Max. But you know, I agree. And I do understand that the information can be right, but there's still wisdom and timing. And I think that was the biggest thing that I noticed about, you know, parenting this season with the, you know, with Ellen and her coming to accept that Marcus has a, you know, serious problem. And then when you saw like the flashbacks, right? And you kind of always saw that Marcus was, you know, different than Max. Like, and just how Max said it, like, you know what, I don't get to be the bad twin or the person who needs help, but I have to be the good kid. And I think for so long she kind of was just like, oh, this is just how Marcus is. Like, he's always been this way, versus accepting that it's on a different level. Like, you giving him a paint studio is not sufficient. So when she did tell her about the drinking and Max tried and was like, get him some help, I don't think that she had the capacity. I think it was very much like, nothing else can change in my life right now, as opposed to, I see and I understand that my kid needs help and we're going to go get him help. It took more. It took him crashing out, coming back from that party for her. Yeah, and which is a complete departure from how Zion and Georgia showed up for Ginny. Granted, Georgia wasn't, you know, we saw season 2, the therapy session. It was a complete contrast between her, Zion, and her therapist. But there was still some type of, okay, this is an issue and we need to tackle it. The accountability part was different, but it was just interesting seeing the parallels.
What's the issue you're talking about? The abortion?
No. You know, when she first was talking in season 2 with the therapist, and she's like, what do you mean? It's my fault? I did, like, she was very, she was very, you know, a little self-centered, very defensive.
That's how a lot of parents react at first. That first time, yes.
And then Zion was different. Zion was like, I apologize. Like, I failed you. He was very validating, right? So you have 2 different responses on like the spectrum of how parents can respond to being held accountable in therapy. And then you have complete avoidance when it came to Ellen. And even with her husband, you know what I mean? It was just like, what's wrong with you? Like, we want to help you.
I also think that there's a layer of, and I think I noticed because me and my mother have worked through this, where it's hard to see your child in pain. And it's easier to tell like yourself it's not as like, you don't, because if you make it a big deal and there's like a codependency, then what does that say about you as a parent? And I think with Ellen, they've been the perfect family next door, across the street, you know what I mean, for this long. And I think, you know, that's where the pressure for Maxine comes in. And with Marcus, he has his stuff, but they've been able to like hide it from the, you know, from the community for the most part. And so I think that there's like a comfort that Ellen takes in like, no, he's okay. Not because even that she needs him to be okay, but for her to be okay. She needs him to be okay. And I think that
as like, okay as her kids are.
And I think that puts a codependent pressure on kids. I think that and both twins experience that, because even in the flashback that you mentioned, Ellen very much made it Maxine's job at an early age to take care of her brother, to feel responsible for her brother. She's like, and I think that there's always a level of like responsibility for your siblings, but then there's a parentified level where it's like, are you not impressed with my parentified mental health?
Listen.
No.
You see,
I just popped in there.
Impressed. When I tell you, eldest Haitian daughter came out like,
Yes, we got 2 eldest daughters of immigrants in this YouTube, okay?
Look, a moment for the community.
We see you. We feel you. We're healing.
We're here for you.
But no, how, like,
Right.
you know, Maxine was very parentified. And I think that's even why she felt it like, I have to take all this on. And that's a lot. When you feel like you're like, if you break, that your family will break, or that your parents will break, and not just that I can break and people around me are strong enough to support me breaking and help me get back together. Those are two very different feelings. And I think that I like that they showed that, because I think we haven't really seen Ellen's flaws as a mother. Not flaws, but like her nuances, because it all is what makes you interesting, right? And I think the more I learn about how people tick, they're more interesting to me. And I think it made Ellen more 3D than she's been in past seasons.
I mean, I definitely empathize with her. I work with couples who are parents and who just talk about, like, I am really trying hard not to let the successes and failures of my child be mine, and to recognize that they came of me, but they're not me. And and it's difficult, because you think about how society talks about parents, how society talks about mothers, and what their children, how their children show up. They look to see, oh, well, what did you do? The nurturing, the mothering, and all of that. Like, it's a direct connection of what you did or what you didn't do. And, you know, I feel like Max is like family manager, right? And I just found it interesting. Family manager. But I just really found it interesting that there wasn't a depiction of showing Ellen talking to her husband around how they can tag team for Marcus. It was her and baby Max. This is how I feel like that pattern dynamic has definitely started from like childhood to where they are now. And I think that Marcus has a bit of resentment towards that dynamic as well, because they don't just get to be siblings. There's that, like you said, parentification towards Maxine and Marcus. And even when like she's trying to take him from the party and all of that, we see how he kind of like bucks up and just...
Because she has to be the parent when she's not her job. She
has to be the parent,
And that makes her the bad guy to all her peers. She looks lame to all of them. They're all, because they don't know what's happening at home. And I think it's a specific thing. I think that goes back to the appearances thing, where it's like Maxine didn't even feel like she could, you know, Maxine, who tells everything. Don't you find it interesting? Like, I was like, this is where she clamps up. That's so anti her personality. She was taught that. You know what I mean? And it's, I think it, like, I mean, when it comes to Marcus's depression and his issues, I mean, even with her close friends, who she wants them to tell her all of every, you know what I mean? Like, they're all going through some dark stuff, but I did find it interesting that, like, I don't know, I just feel like I found it interesting that the real hard things that were happening in her life, and I get it, because I'm that way too, but she does not feel comfortable sharing that with the group.
I think that was a direct reflection of where the group is now.
But Marcus was depressed last season too. It wasn't as extreme, but he went through a bout of it, and she never said a thing to anybody about it.
I thought she did. I thought she was talking to Ginny about it.
I thought she talked to Ginny about it because Ginny saw it. But I mean, like, Abby, the girls, like, that Nora, who she's grown up with her whole life, like, how did they not have any history of knowing this about Marcus? I don't know.
I don't know. I guess a part of me felt like they kind of knew, especially because Abby was out here getting drunk with Marcus, and but
I feel like if she thought Marcus had a big problem, she would have taken it more seriously.
I think any of them knew to the degree, because I feel that last season it was giving the beginnings of depression and him saying that he's just not okay, versus it went deeper this season and he started self-medicating with alcohol, which Abby knew before Max did. Abby knew that he was drinking.
She didn't know he was self-medicating though.
Yes. She knew that he was drinking, and
friend who was just buying him alcohol without asking any questions. She was getting on my nerves.
That
I'm like, girl, this your best friend, you say? Ask a question. What do you mean, like, oh, he's fine? Every time she kept gaslighting Maxine, he's fine. I mean, you bought him all these bottles and you never thought to yourself, maybe my friend needs to talk to somebody? Like,
I mean, no, because once again, they're high schoolers, and what do they do all the day?
But I feel like I don't know, maybe I'm like, I would think because she claims to be his best friend. If she was a casual friend like Abby, I wouldn't expect her to know. But those was a lot of bottles he bought her. She bought him. But anyway.
I don't think that he was talking to her so that she can marry the behavior with the emotional landscape. She didn't know where he was emotionally. You're still at the skate park. You're still showing up. The only thing she knew was that him and Ginny weren't together anymore. But nobody really knew the emotional landscape until things kind of went even worse. Because even Ginny didn't know until the very end, and then they're in the bed, and she's like, "You done, wet yourself."
That was,
And I think for her, that was
a
a moment. And then, Ellen came in and was like, "It's time for you to leave." Like, it wasn't on no play. What you doing here? It was very serious at that point in time. And, I think that, like, when people develop emotional relationships with each other and they're in relationship, it's like love does mean protection. And you see Max trying to protect her brother, like when she fluffs up his bed and do all of these things so that the parents don't know that he left. And you saw how, like, Austin in his own way, like, lies on the stand in a big way because he's trying to protect his mom. You know what I mean? Like, you see these people throughout the season exercising their loves in ways that make sense for them because they're like, I'm going to protect you even at this cost. You know what I mean? And I feel like, some people may say emotional manipulation because there's like a power dynamic when you think about Georgia and Ginny when it came to Austin, and you think about showing up with Joe. I honestly feel like people are trying to do the best that they can with how they know to show up,
what they have, what they got, what they know. Can we transfer over to Ginny, Austin, and Georgia, or?
Absolutely, because that relationship is like triangulation, like the stressors between like Ginny and Georgia, and now it's all set into Austin, and then go ahead, girl.
No, well, because I'm just saying, like, when you're talking about the manipulation, I feel like we watched the student become the master a little bit this season, and we are seeing that even with therapy. Apprentice. She's becoming. But I'm sorry, she pulled a big one. Like, what she was able to do to get Georgia off for murder, baby, that gets masterful to me. I'm sorry. That ain't no rookie move. Like, that was a 4-tier plan. Like, baby, if we could just break it down. Ginny did her big one, okay? I'm so sorry. I know we shouldn't have rooted for it, but I was rooting for it a little bit because I'm like, Georgia did kill old boy. She did kill him, right? We just have to admit that is the thing. And technically, she should be going to jail for killing this man. I don't love it. I don't like it. But according to the law, yes, she was guilty. Now, I feel like what was so crazy is that I think it speaks to, like, because Ginny's been on this huge healing journey, but when her back's against the wall and everything's at stake and she goes into survival mode,
she said sport mode.
She's like, I gotta do what I know to do. And she even says it in that scene when Georgia calls her from jail, like when Georgia has accepted it. Like, and that's what's interesting. The second Georgia is regulating herself and accepting accountability, Ginny's like, oh, absolutely not. What do you mean? Like, now you want to do this? Like there's anger. And it's like, you've done this for less. You've done more for less. And now when it's like, my daily life is at stake, now you want to be okay with being accountable, and now you want to take responsibility. And it's like, nah, I say no. And she even was like, and I'm going to now do what I've seen you do my whole life for you. And for her, that is an act of love because that's how Georgia has loved them. That's the example of love that they've seen, is Georgia manipulate their people in their lives to keep them safe. And now Ginny was doing that for Georgia, but that included manipulating Austin in a way that at his young age, Ginny and Georgia, this is a cold job because Austin watched, part of Austin's drama is he saw his mama kill somebody last season. Like, that is the thing that happened. Not just somebody, but one of his best friend's dad. Happened. I keep having it happened because I can't believe Georgia did that shit. Like, and it was his little best friend's dad. Yeah. Not just anybody's dad, like his best friend's dad. And so, like, and then now Austin, and he's bonding with, and he's feeling guilt because Gil and guilt could go together real bad. And it's like their dynamic where we can go into more of that, but I think it's like Austin and Gil are bonding in a way that Austin did not expect to bond with Gil because he's always been the villain in the story, and rightfully so in some ways. But like Ginny went low, like with the, hey Austin, I need you to hang this on your daddy. Yo, I gotta make my father. I have to hang this on my father is crazy. That's a crazy ask for somebody who's still in elementary school. Like, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Austin ain't even a teenager. So I think for Ginny to be like, this is the plan. Either it's your dad or your mom. You have to choose. That's a choice no child should ever have to make. And so many people do have to make it, but you don't leave that choice unscathed. And I think that's what I appreciate about this season is they're not pretending like Ginny and Austin can go through this and come out the same way they went in. Because they're both, it's clearly foreshadowing a break. That like the pressure of this has, the pressure of the triangulation not being in order or whatever. It's broken. It's Austin's breaking under it, honey, because he was happy. Like, he had that initial, like, yes, my mom is out. I'm so glad. And then the day two, he was like, oh my God, like, my dad is gone out of my life forever. He'll never forgive me for this. I've lost that relationship forever. And Ginny gets to have it. She gets to still have that relationship. She still has her dad.
She's going to Korea for the summer.
With her dad. While Austin was in the house with never being able to speak to Gil again. And I don't like Gil. So I even hate saying all this. And Gil was wrong for what he did to Ginny. He put his hands on him, and that was her, and that was a problem. That was a big problem. But I'm just saying that, like, for Austin, who's never experienced abuse from his father, that's a hard thing to wrap your head around.
It's a generational pattern about, this love is protection, because you hear how Georgia talked about how her dad was in jail because her dad tried to kill her and her mom, right? But then there's that question mark there because the dad called her.
They seem to be foreshadowing.
The dad called her and was just like, it feel like it's not all what it seems. But it's just like, it's trickling through the generations. And I think that we see the impact of that on Ginny. I am actually afraid to see the impact of that on Austin. Like, I'm like, he walked in that house and it was like and this is the same little boy who shot his dad because his dad was like actively abusing Georgia in that moment. So we have that, and then it progressed to lying on the stand. So now I'm in this house, and one thing about them, they're gonna act like that it never happened. And you can't tell nobody. And he's in his bed, resentful that he's in a situation, crying on that jersey.
Yeah, and on the jersey, his dad got him. And I mean, I did appreciate that Ginny said, "Can we finally can Austin go to therapy now, Mom, please?" And Georgia agreed that they're going to send that boy to therapy, and I'm fascinated to see what those sessions are going to be like. But to your point, they've had to not just only make decisions to protect those they love, but they've had to make cruelly unfair decisions. They've played God.
Yeah.
In a way that nobody should play. You know what I mean? And like, it's like, you should never have to choose about, like, they've had to break the law. They've had to commit murder. They've had to commit perjury. They've had to frame people.
They
chose. But yeah, no, they chose
to.
They do. But I think for Austin and for Ginny, because they're underage, they felt like it was their only choice.
Because
they could
it was
not
the power
see
dynamic.
Other choices.
Yeah, it was the power dynamic.
And I think that I'm so excited at the foreshadowing of Georgia's parents coming into next season.
Ooh,
because
Mary.
Once again, they're going to show that Georgia is not born that way. None of this. It's once again the same way Ginny had to go through this exercise with Georgia and Zion. We about to see how Georgia became who she is, because wouldn't it be crazy if the whole break in her personality is this narrative that her dad tried to kill her, the whole initial mistrust of men that has guided her entire life.
Yes.
If it's based off of a lie,
yes,
and it's actually her mother who lied to her about her father, and if I was the writer's room, her mom about to be Georgia 2.0. Like, you thought Georgia was bad.
Look at the parallels. His dad is in jail. Gil was in jail because of a lie. Granted, it was in response to her being abused, and so she was,
it was a lie based
whatever.
on the truth. But yeah.
Yes, but regardless, you know what I mean? So I mean, I can't wait to see how that pans out. But I think, like that therapist said, secrets are a sickness. And it's a sickness.
And Georgia is built a house of secrets, baby. Her whole, like, and I think even just them having to keep secrets, like, that in itself is a whole wound.
To maintain it.
To maintain it. But I do think one of the interesting things about this season is Ginny, for the first half of the series, her whole frustration is that nobody sees her mom for who she is, who Ginny sees her as, right?
The monster.
She's fooling everybody, and Ginny is the only one who has to hold this truth, and it's too heavy. But then it's interesting about the careful what you ask for, because the second the world got a glimpse of Georgia, Ginny could not handle it. She did not like it. Nope. She said, oh no, we got to put that Ginny back in the bottle. I thought this is what I wanted, But baby, I take it back. I don't want it. I take it back. I don't want it. I don't want actually the world to know who my mother is, because I didn't think through how difficult that was going to be for all of us.
Yeah, she can't think. Of course, she couldn't foreshadow the ramifications of what that means for your life, because you're a child. You're a child. Yeah. And the thing is, you don't get to control what happens when information is being dished out. So she did this whole poem calling her mama a monster, and now everybody looking at it, and now she's just like, you can't walk that back. Anything, and this is for any teenager who may be watching this, be mindful of what you put on Beyonce's internet.
Absolutely, because you can't walk it back. But I will say that was one of Georgia's best moments in this, mothering moments in this season, because literally because she knew that might put me in jail for life. And she did not. And she did not take it out on Ginny. She did not even reprimand Ginny for it. She knew that Ginny already felt as guilty as she was going to feel about it, and did not add to the guilt trip, which would have been very easy to do. A lot of the audience would have understood it. But instead, Georgia says, I'm going to prioritize. That was one of the times when I saw the girl, like, Georgia is starting to prioritize their pain over hers. Yeah. And I think that's a new level of Georgia that we haven't really seen before. Georgia's pain has been prioritized a lot.
One thing she's never felt like she's been validated as is being a good mom, because she says that all the time. I'm a good mom. I'm a good mom. I've done so much for these kids. And it's just like she holds on to that truth because that is her anchor.
But the thing is, it's her only accomplishment she feels like she can be proud of.
Yeah. And then what she fails to realize up until this point was that, yes, you being a good mom, according to your definition, there's positive and negative consequences with every choice that you make. And now she's seeing the outcomes of that through her children. And now it's like, but I always believed I was a good mom, right? So now she's questioning her motherhood. She's questioning her choices because she's seeing that it didn't give the exact outcome. I mean, when Ginny told her she was pregnant, I thought
about it.
In that moment, I really was like, oh, this is how they start mirroring Ginny and Georgia.
It's mothers and daughters. It's generational, what do you want to call it? Patterns, curses, whatever you want to call it. There is something there to them running to sex or a man for comfort in those moments, because the boy who got Ginny pregnant, what you call it, she wasn't even in love with him. Wolf. These names. Wolf, with an E, is not even somebody that she was in love with. She only did that because she was trying to distract herself from what her mother was going through. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of times that teenage pregnancies come from kids trying to just distract themselves from what's happening at home. They're pouring themselves into their boyfriends, into sex, whatever it is. Sometimes you're pouring yourself into liquor like Marcus is. Sometimes it's sex. And I think it was interesting to see that Ginny then is now in this position, but I love that they chose to show the different track. Because when it happened, I was pissed. When that pregnancy stick, I said, no, you know what? The second they said, let's take it as a group, I said, oh, I'm on to y'all. I'm on to y'all right now. Don't piss me off. And they pissed me. I said, Ginny they about to piss me off because Ginny about to be pregnant. And I haven't been that mad since Gilmore Girls when Rory ends the whole Netflix thing with, like, I'm pregnant. We went through all that for her to repeat the pattern. Now, granted, Rory was 32, so not a teenager, but I was like, okay, we're doing this again. But I love that it became them supporting her through getting not that I love abortion, obviously, like that's a hard choice to make, but I love that they were able to show Georgia saying to her, like, yes, you are a product of me not choosing to have an abortion, but that was what was best for me at that time. I did not have the same opportunities that you have right now. Yeah. And I, we're not the same. Even though we found ourselves in the same scenario, we're not the same people.
Don't piss me off moment was me. I was so upset, but I realized why it had to happen. Because if we're talking about Ginny mirroring Georgia, she's going to walk the same path because she sees that as an example. And it's just like she got to make whatever choice that she felt was the best for her. And you get to see how her journey will diverge from her mom. You know what I mean? And so I just think that was really fascinating to see how people look at the different generations, and they look at how one choice can just break a generational curse or a generational cycle. You know what I mean?
Yes. How their growth as a unit, because Zion and Georgia came together as two people who had been in that scenario and were able to be for their daughter what they didn't have in that moment. And I thought that was so beautiful. And I'm so glad that they illustrated it. Like, because Georgia, she's right. Like, for her kids saved her. They gave her a reason to get out. And she needed something to anchor her, right? Yeah. Where Ginny, she's intelligent, she's this great poet, she has this tribe of friends. Like, to your point about all you could say about Georgia, the evidence of her being a good mother is how much more Ginny has than she had at her age.
Yeah, she wasn't afforded.
I love that they didn't just take can we also just shout out Marcus in this moment too? Because
he showed up.
Georgia obviously was on house arrest and could not go to the abortion. A big grown man way for a teenage boy? Because let me tell you, I don't know a man, too many men who would be able to take that bullet and at that age, I don't know too many teenage boys who were like, you got pregnant by some other we love each other, and you got pregnant by this other dude. So not only did you get pregnant by this other dude, right? That's not me. And now you're pregnant. Now I'm coming to because now I'm doing what he wants. He said I'm not the. He had to Russell Wilson it and step in and be there where Wolf wouldn't. He was like, oh, so also you got pregnant by this little boy who wasn't gonna come to a clinic with you. But he did. But what's crazy is he never. I think what's so mature is he never said any of that to Ginny ever. Not even after the fact. Not even like I'm gonna wait till you recover from this and then we're gonna have a conversation about what just happened here. None of that. He did not villainize her. He did not make it about him. He did not judge her. When I tell you Derek Shepherd judged Meredith Grey for less, I'm crossing TV shows, but I always think about that thing where when you remember when Derek, I'm so sorry for people that watch Grey's Anatomy, but when Derek was hear me out, I'm making a point. When Derek was like judging Meredith, but he got back with Abby about how she was sleeping with the vet and all these men, and Meredith said to him, you don't get to judge the way I am handling or fixing what you broke, the mess you made. You left me. So don't you sit here don't you even think about getting up on no high horse to talk about how I'm dealing with it. And Marcus, at his half the age and half the education as Dr. Dreamy, did what Derek never could. Okay? He said, I ain't gonna say nothing, because who am I to tell you what to do? We broke up. I broke up. I broke your heart. And your mom's on trial. You're obviously going through a lot.
So it wasn't giving pick me, choose me, love me? No?
You're talking about Derek's greater moments. Derek was a man of his generation, okay? Derek was Gen X. The Gen Z boys are way more emotionally mature than the Gen X men of their time. And I just think that it was just beautiful to see a girl, like a teenage girl, get in this situation that we have watched women be judged for since the beginning of time, and not be judged by any single person that was
not be harassed
privy to it. Not be harassed, not be judged, not be looked at different, not be whatever, punished. Her mother, her father, and the boy she loves, who isn't the baby's father, all put their stuff and their feelings to the side and prioritize Ginny.
Her.
And to me, that was something I don't know if I've ever seen on television happen before.
Honestly, haven't. Like, no. It was refreshing in the sense that there's so many reasons why people decide to judge and criticize and harass women, teenage girls at that, and this was shown in a way that was so respectful, and it wasn't even on some, we approve or we disapprove, right? I think people need to remember that whatever choice anyone makes, that they should be empowered in that choice. We know that there's some people, with, Christian perspectives who are just like, there's other options and all that. Regardless of what it is, that women deserve to make decisions in their full mind.
Yes.
Fully understanding the positive and negative consequence of whatever choice that they make. But Absolutely. They need to be able to have the space to make the decision in their fullness versus deferring to what somebody else wants, which I think Georgia did a fabulous job in saying, I can't make that decision for you.
Ooh, that moment, she let Ginny keep her agency when she
Big
was
mama.
like, which is what you're describing, agency. Ginny was able to keep her agency, and Georgia held that little baby face and said, I can't make this. She said, Mom, tell me what to do. You know how many moms would have folded in that moment and told them what to do? Folded like a lawn chair in a lawn chair at the 4th of July. Okay, folded. You understand? In the heat, okay?
Yeah.
Georgia, in that moment, once again said, I can't tell you what to do, Peach. Not this time.
I can't. Not this time.
I choked up. I did. I said, now, that's how you write a mother and daughter relationship.
Mother.
Big mom, like you said. Woo! That
Big
was
mom.
it.
Heavy on the M. Okay.
Yes, love that moment. I was like, okay, because I was like, I love that
Listen, moment. I know. We can definitely go there, but I definitely want to give this space and time because the girlfriends, Max, Nora, Abby, and Ginny, there's such a shift. And, justice for Max.
Justice for Max.
Because and here's the thing. I can recognize that friendships will change over time. Friendships will evolve and different things like that. But they have, typecasted Max. You're dramatic. You're emotional. You're too much. We don't have no space. Now, we do know that her expressions are louder than the other girls, right? But y'all, have never had that issue before. I do think that each of the girls have, like you said, are going through a lot. Abby, her parents have divorced, and she just found out her dad moved in, the fiance or
and
the
her
girlfriend.
Mom was drinking. And
her mom is drinking, and she's bulimic, and then also dealing with that guy, and then that other girl triangle situation, which was so messy. And then, Nora has a lot of feelings around, Georgia and the treatment of Cynthia. Like, she has a lot of feelings around that, which causes her to step back a little bit from Ginny, right? And then, what Ginny got going on and Max. So I think there were life situations that were already causing cracks in the dynamic. However, in response to those cracks happening, you start seeing the three gel and push out Max. And I think part of that was because they were trying to carve out emotional space for them to be. I just don't think they went about it the right way or the best way. And once again, these are supposed to be teenage girls.
They are. And they, listen, I was rereading my teenage diary the other day, and I said, I need to be softer to these characters on these shows, because let me tell you something. The growth has been exponential. But to your point, because here's the thing. I see so much of myself in Max, but because I remember the certain works I had to do, because Max has been kind of given the responsibility of taking on and being the savior manager of her family, that translates to her friend groups. And that same way that Marcus is like, you're not my parent. I know with anxiously attached relationships, the closeness is safety, and anything that's being pushed out, it's perceived as danger. And it's like, for Max, she's like, when she gets activated, she's like, I need closeness. I need closeness. I need closeness. I need to talk about it. And then And if she's pushing on somebody who does not need that does not vibe. And I do think that the other part of it is that Max has had to hold so many feelings to the chest that she had, like when she does get to express in relationships that she feels safe in. They're big expression. That's why she's acting on stage and in her friendships, like, because at home everything gotta look okay. And so I do think that there's like a bit of that, but what I'm trying to get to is I understand the friend's perspective that Max does have big reactions. She does color over their stuff sometimes. Like we've seen her do it in the past. I mean, listen, Max, like I said, and I love that the Max episode because it gave us that look at her that I never would have been able to see, because in season 1 or 2, I forget what season it was, when she X'd out Ginny out of the group like that and made Abby and Nora not speak to Ginny and made it all about her, I was really upset with Max. I said, what's wrong with you, girl? You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think that though that is who Max is, and we cannot forget her behavior in the past. And so I get why her friends are like, I want to talk about this, but I don't want it to be a big deal. And Max is going to make it a big deal. But that's the part where it gets typecasted, because you don't, and this is the immaturity, instead of communicating that to Max and giving her a chance to show up differently, they assume it and then just try to work around it. Try to work around the hard conversation. Because I think what I really appreciated about the slow build to the Max episode is that I was seeing in full perspective how oftentimes people can feel left out, but it's not intentional. A lot of times we have a hard time in our in friend groups being like, how was it not intentional that you left me out? But we're seeing, like Bracia, one of the moments like when she happened to be in the parking lot and happened to see Ginny in the car. So then she went in the car and talked to Ginny, but what she came back and told Max was, oh yeah, me and Ginny had lunch in the car. It seemed like a intentional decision, but it was happenstance. Or when she saw Abby and Ginny trying on dresses together and texted Nora like, did they go shopping without us? And they didn't. They just both happened to be at the same store. And I think a lot of times our anxiety helps us create these ideas that people are, like the people we love, are working against us in some way and are pushing us out, when that wasn't even always the case. I think a lot of the built up for Max were actually happenstance instances where the girls were not intentionally trying to leave her out, especially Ginny. And I do think that when Marcus would tell Max, don't make this about you, but what Ginny and Georgia were going through, half the time he was right. There were half the times he said that sentence, I agreed with him, because it's like, I know you want to be there for Ginny. You want to fix this for Ginny. You want to be the hero in her scenario, because that's what you've been taught to be for Marcus, and you love Ginny like that. But this is not you feeling left out about how she's dealing with this huge trauma. It's not about you, baby. And I get it, because I have to tell like myself sometimes like stuff like that, where I'm like, I get the inclination to want to just hover and do what you can for the people you love, and realizing that sometimes what they need is for it to not be, and then not taking it personal, like not taking it personal. But then it became time for her to take it personal, and I'm glad she spoke up when she needed to, because towards the end it was getting a little crazy. I said, okay, now y'all not giving Max a chance, and that's not fair. But I loved the buildup of how there was not one clear right or wrong. I liked that it was this blend, because that's what life is. Like, it's this blend of good and bad. Nobody is bad. Nobody is good. It's like we're all a mix. And I love that in the friend group, like, we got to see Ginny and Max's break not even be totally intentional and more situational.
So I hear you. I'm with
I'm saying though, because some of it was, a lot of it I kept watching throughout the season. Max felt left out, and I'm like, oh, Max, I wish you knew they didn't plan this. They didn't do that. Like, this is, they just ended up here.
And that's what I'm saying. I hear you, because I get it. I mean, I lived it. You know, I think that when you look at a relationship and you're looking at the sum of its parts and like the totality of the relationship, and you're thinking about, okay, like, how does this relationship feels to me right now? If you already feel left out, that is the lens in which you will start to understand or make sense of these different situations, which is why when she heard about them at the store and her and Bracia, that makes sense. Because at the same time, those two circumstances happenstance, and there were times where they did intentionally set her aside. We're like, no, I don't want to tell her this. No, let's keep this within ourselves, right? There were events, and then when they went to egg the house, you get what I'm saying? Like, so when you look at the sum of everything, yes, you have some things that were not necessarily planned with that thought to keep her out, but more often than not, they did. Right?
I only could think of 2 times that they did. I mean, I'm honestly like, when it comes to the 3 of them, when it was because they went to Abby's house to talk to her about the eating disorder, and then they egged the house. That was all one night, right?
Yes,
and I
but
think
they
that
also
it's
had
like
conversations though, where
right.
there's like
But
conversations. Like Ginny has certain things that she was like, I don't want her to know. Abby, same thing. You get what I'm saying? So like, yes, your intentions do color how you show up, right? And if they had that intention towards Max, it would influence how they were showing up in the relationship. Because just because you decide to keep certain pieces of information doesn't mean that, oh, there's closeness in other areas. Once you have an intention about somebody, there is an emotional distance that starts to occur between the relationship. When Max took the opportunity to say, hey, I'm noticing X, Y, and Z, right? Because we know that Marcus was trying to tell her, don't make it about her. And she was trying to really operate from that. I do think that there's opportunity to validate her need to want to help and tell her it's okay to not show up, because you kept hearing a lot of people say, stop, don't do this. It's not about you.
And they were harsh.
Yes. And there was no care or love in the communication to her, and there was no validation of what her intent was. And so when she decides to like, okay, have this conversation, it's just like, once again, another shutdown. It didn't feel like they wanted to have a conversation. I do understand there's wisdom and timing, so maybe doing it at the show isn't the best time. But when you think about it, when was the last time they all spent time with each other? You know what I mean?
They go to the same school every day. They're together every morning in the hallway. I think it's like, cause I don't completely disagree with you, right? But I think the advice that Ellen gave Max in her bedroom when she talked to her about it in her episode, where she said, sometimes it's about like the timing of when you say the things. And then she didn't listen to her mom, did the thing with Ginny anyway. And then she was like, I should listen to my mom. She was right. Yeah. Like, cause this made it worse.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times it's like, but that's the anxiety part. And I identify with that anxiety, where your anxiety is telling you, I got to regain this closeness or I've lost them forever. But that intensity is also what's pushing them away. And so it's a hard self-fulfilling prophecy. Because I think in the same way, like, it's like she, like, because to your point, because she's already felt left out, it amplifies these things. So she's coming in amplified. Versus there's times where it was Abby and Ginny, and Nora never cared. There were times, you know what I mean? There were times where it was Nora and Abby, and Ginny never cared. But I mean,
but they also wasn't treating Nora that way.
But no, there were times where like it was just Abby and Ginny. I'm just saying that like anytime two people got together and Max was not the third, she had something to say about it. Every single time. I'm just saying that Bracia was never like, dang, you ain't like, how come you be with your white friends, but you don't never be with me? Like, you know what I'm saying? It speaks to it's part of Maxine's personality, and I get it, right? Because it's her anxious attachment, but like, I think it's twofold. It is both why they needed to take better care with her, but also why they felt like they needed to distance from her. Because there are, like I said, in this scenario, she was right, and I was mad at them during the play. I said, y'all being mean to this girl, and she don't deserve this. But there were times in the past where Maxine was making everything about her, and it was getting on my nerves.
I mean,
both
absolutely.
things were true for me.
Absolutely. I mean, in that scene at the party, when
the very last party when Marcus got drunk. Yeah. Okay, I want to make sure I knew.
Yeah, and she was just like, I don't know, maybe we just grew apart, and that's okay. And then Max was just like, I don't want that to be okay. It feels like they have already accepted that we don't want closeness with Max because she's too much. And that for me was my indication around, it wasn't just, when it comes to these topics, we need some space. It was like, I don't think I want her in my emotional space. And they're not having the conversation around the shifting. They didn't have the conversation around the shift in the friendship. And so you have people who may not have voice that they're okay with, like, not being on the same level anymore. But also remember, Nora, Abby, and Max were the original three since childhood. You know what I mean? And so, like, it's not just, oh, like a high school friendship. These girls have been friends since they were little kids. And so I wouldn't even fault someone for saying that Max sees them as her sisters. You know what I mean? So it's just like my nucleus of like friendship, sisterhood is coming apart, and I don't know why, and no one's talking to me. Like,
I feel like they've told her. They just haven't told her nicely. Like, they've told her, you're too intense. Like, you make it about you. Like, these are things that people have said to her, but they're not saying it in a way
feedback.
that like is. Yeah,
that's feedback.
But they're not putting it full circle. But I think it's also because they don't know how to voice. I don't think they know. And to your point though, I do think what Ginny said at the end, I guess it's like a thing where it's like it was built to that. By that point, Ginny felt that way. Yeah. But I don't believe that Ginny came into the season feeling that way about Max. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it was a build up, and it was a build up of Max. Like, but it just was unfair. I get it. It's unfair to Max that she was typecasted. She was cold. I thought it was uncharacteristically cold. Like, I almost felt like in that scene, I said, who wrote this scene? Because this don't feel like
it makes
Ginny
sense though.
But where she's going to, right? Maybe it's the new version of Ginny.
It makes sense because she's transforming into Georgia. She done went through so much life, and it's just like the girl just had an abortion. You know what I mean?
You know what?
So
and
it's just like
she's probably like, Max, I'm going.
It don't matter.
I don't have but I also don't have space.
I don't have space.
The things you're mad about, like, are so little compared to the things
what I got going on. Yeah. Until
she saw it.
Until she saw Marcus, and by then she tried to circle back, and then Max was like, "We're good."
I have to deal with. No, she was like, I have to deal with my family. Because here's the thing about teenage girls, and maybe this is because I know high school. I don't take any of their scenarios as the final straw. Like, it's high school. They're gonna make up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think maybe that's why I think of. I mean, listen, the way Max iced Ginny out season 1, I didn't know that they were gonna come back for that. But they did. I
remember.
You know, I just feel like high school is a time where you have these things, then it's a 3, then it's a 2, then it's the 1, and then it's like, you know, like Nora wanted to, like, that's what high school is, unfortunately. Like, you make up and you like go through that, and that's why I think that even especially with Nora, to your point about their long-term like friendships with Maxine only had that conversation with Ginny. She did not have that conversation with Abby, the people who are her sisters, about, like, even though Abby was just being a bitch. Abby, I don't even want to say, I whispered it because I don't know if this is a cursing show. But I was like, girl, you are, get it together. But I guess it's like, for me, I feel like they were trivializing. I'm forming this in real time. Max, again, I think it goes back to Maxine's family seems perfect. Their families are falling apart. What could you possibly have to be this upset about?
What issues?
What could it possibly be? Because let me tell you, was your mama on trial for murder?
But Nora's not going through it.
No, Nora's not going through it. But Nora's also the one who's being nicest to Maxine. I think getting a glimpse of what Maxine is really going through is going to soften the girls to understanding how she's been behaving. Because they don't know. We are, like, sometimes I have to remind myself what we see versus what the characters see in the show. And I think I was happy that Ginny saw the Marcus thing, mostly because I'm hoping that it will help her realize Maxine got some real shit going on. And maybe y'all should be nicer to her because she's not just out here doing the most about what's going on with Marcus. Like, he's really going through something, and now you've seen it, and hopefully you course correct.
You know what? Part of me is just like, I feel like this, okay, yes. I feel like more than likely by the time this show is over, they'll be friends again. I just think that there's certain situations when it comes to friendship groups that has a lasting impact, and that it'll take some serious repair and intentionality to get the relationship back. And right now, it just doesn't appear that they have the skill set to be able to do so. Because there's just a lot of conversations that I say that around because of how she's feeling around Marcus and his drinking and the stress and the internal conversation she had with herself around how she deals with her depression and anxiety and all of those things. I feel like in this next season, they're going to have to be very intentional towards repair and reconnecting in order for them to have that friendship that they all feel honored in and they all feel respected in.
You know, I feel like sometimes I try to put myself back in my teenage mind because I do think like if they were our age, I would 100% agree. I only think because by now, like in high school, the betrayals, like those feelings of being like, they're new, they're fresh. Your heart is not as like it. No, I'm saying like with the friendships. Unless Abby and Nora and her fall out every year. In which case, then they'll definitely make up. I just mean to say that when you go through this hard time as a friend group and you haven't gone through life in a way where you're now like fully cold to like to like forgiveness and like I think it depends on how guarded Maxine is as a person, because there are people who are easier to forgive than others, and I do think that there are people who would think. I think that the younger you are, the more malleable your heart is still, because it just has not been hardened as much by the world yet. They are going through some real life stuff for sure. But I mean, when it comes to, I think a lot of times people are protected because of the amount of friendship breakups they've been through, because of the amount of betrayal they've been through. And this is Maxine. Like you said, these are her friends from childhood. She doesn't know what it's like to have that yet, that break yet. And so I think in the beginning, you're more like, sometimes it's easier to rebuild because it's fresh. The same way, like when you're younger and your bone breaks. I don't know, like, it's easier to heal. Like, but I do think like that's what I'm trying to get at. Like that, it's like that. I think sometimes that's why teenagers are so extreme all the time, because it's like
they're learning how to deal with their feelings. And I think if the girls weren't going through real stuff, I would be less inclined to forgive them. Right? I think I'd be less inclined to forgive them if I was Max. I think if I'm Max, I'm also going to consider, you know what? They've had a very hard year too. Not Nora, but like Abby and Ginny have had a really. Nora. Because she talked about the whole adopted piece of it, like her feelings around adoption. Yeah, so she did talk about that. So let's give her a little credit.
And she did think that she was pregnant for a second there.
For 2 seconds.
But I mean to say though that like I think if they were just being bitches for no reason, I'd be like, well, forget y'all. You know what I mean? But if like I don't know, if one of my best friends, and Jenny's a newer best friend, if her mom was on trial for murder and she got taken away by child services to live with her father, and then we know everything that happened this season, I would be like, you know what, girl, maybe we should just start from square one and build from there. I don't know. But again, they may hate each other forever. Who knows? That would be sad to me, though. Because I do think that they all deserve... I think when they're all friends, I think they are all at their best. And I think that, like, I want to see them work through that. But I think they have to see Maxine for who she really is and not who they've stereotyped her to be.
And I was going to say, I think Maxine is very, like, she is prone to forgiving. I just don't think it's going to be as quickly as she has, like, in the past or, like, apt to.
No, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've often thought that everybody's forgiving each other too quick on this show. I thought Ginny forgave Maxine too quick. I'm like, you made my life hell. You made my life is hell. And it wasn't warranted. I'm like, season one. I feel like season one Ginny was a little sprinkled in that scene with Max. I thought she was like, and you know what? Because look at us now. Maybe we shouldn't be. But yeah, I do hope that Ginny doesn't become hard like that though, because it's not like. But again, all of my apathy from Max came from flashbacks, inner dialogue, getting into her head, things that the girls don't have access to.
Yeah, she became more full to me.
Yeah, she became 3D.
More full.
Because it explains why she acted the way she did in season one, but I didn't have that context there. So now I love her, and I want to be like, oh, my little Max baby, I get it.
Justice for Max.
It is, though. It is justice for Max, because they was wrong. And I hope that everybody gives Max a break. Also, and just the part of her saying, like, I present my depression differently, and so it's more silenced, and it's more overlooked. And I thought that was an important thing, because I think people who are functional versus unfunctional, you know us, we're functional. We're eldest daughters. We functional. We gonna move.
Yeah.
We gonna move through. It's like, not that I don't feel it. I just don't let it stop me. Like, that is the thing.
Until it gets to a certain point.
And you hope it doesn't get there, but it's hard for people to know when you've gotten there because the whole thing has been silent. The whole thing has been under the surface. And so you just have this big blowout, and everybody thinks, once again, there's Max overreacting.
Right.
And
you were fine, and now you're not.
And it was like, I actually wasn't fine, but I didn't communicate that to you either.
Yes. I think that's, you do know. You know what you know.
No, I know. I'm just like, oh, these girls, they going through a lot. I'm like, the more I think about it, I'm just like,
I just want to rub their back. Just want to rub their back. I mean, this was a fabulous conversation. Like, I feel like we talked about all the things. Hey, we could have been here a lot longer, but we're gonna be.
We could have, because we did not touch Georgia and her love interest. We didn't talk about any of that. We ain't talking about the mayor. We're gonna give this time because I wanted to talk about the love triangles during the triangulation. No, we have to give space and time for it. Okay,
but space and time for it. My God, today. Hey, Joe. Okay. She did Paul dirty. Okay, so hot takes. She did Paul dirty. Paul really had her back. She couldn't believe it because he didn't show up for her in the way that she needed. So she was fair in that. Joe has always known who she is, always understood her, always loved her, and I want them to be together next season. Go.
There's something that one of my friends who we know, Jasmine Lawson, said to me while we were watching the show at one point, and she was talking about how in television shows, if we prefer to know that it's obvious who the long game is or when it's not obvious. And I think one thing that the Ginny and Georgia team has done really well is that it's not obvious who Georgia's long game is. Meaning, like, we knew Whitley and Dwayne eventually. We knew Sinclair and Overton eventually. Like, you know, there's shows where you know, like, The Office, like, those the white people from The Office. We knew they was going to get together eventually. Like, you know, in every, like, but then in some shows, it's like, is it Zion? Is it Joe? Is it Paul? I don't know. Especially at the beginning, when Paul initially married Georgia in the season finale, I was never more confused. Because Georgia did tell him a lot of things that I thought was going to make him run. And he was, I'll give it to Mayor Paul, he was more ride or die than I ever thought he was going to be.
Absolutely.
But he had
especially in the face of his parents.
And his campaign manager, like, in the town, like, all of it, the news. Like, she just could not be fully honest with him. Her trauma and her wounds were too much. Every time he said, "Is this everything? Is this everything?" It was never everything, and it's because she did not trust that if he saw all of her, that he would still love her. But that also speaks, or that she didn't feel as emotionally safe with him as she feels with Joe. And I think that there's like a sign to that, or maybe it's because Joe happened to know who she was. I don't know. I think that's what I'm saying. It's not obvious because Zion has known her longer and more than Joe, but Zion doesn't even know as much as her as Joe does. And Joe, they knew each other as kids briefly, and then flash forward to now, it wasn't like they've had that bond this whole time. So I do think it's interesting that she's naturally able because of how Joe responds to her truths. I don't know if it's because there's no risk. I don't know if it's because they're not married, that she's like, I can tell you this and I don't think that's going to threaten my world in any way. But I do think, or if you're romantic like me, maybe it's because you think he's her person. And that's why she's able to just trust him instinctually despite all things. I don't know. I'm just saying that one of the things that I find most interesting about the triangle is that it's not obvious who Georgia's end game is, as it is a lot in other shows. Because I'm like, do I want to root for Joe? There was a part of me that was rooting for Paul, but then Paul did back out in a way where I felt it too. But I'm like, damn, he's been through a lot. Then she faked the pregnancy, which just wasn't right. It wasn't right. And then that last scene between them in the kitchen.
And he was like, I knew you did it. And I still had your back. But the thing is,
and you couldn't see it.
Because you weren't there.
And because you weren't there. And he almost hit, like, when he hits the wall instead of her, and he sees that, she has her trauma response, obviously, because she's been abused. And he sees, like, oh my gosh, we've brought out the worst in each other. Like, I'm not this person. I can't be here because I'm becoming this person who is not me. And I just thought that was so devastating. Like the whole crumbling of their marriage, I just found it so devastating because I do think that Paul tried, but then he didn't. And I don't think I loved either side of it. I think it's because I root for Georgia in a way that may not even, it's not biased. It's not unbiased, my feelings for Georgia.
Yeah.
And I think if I was fully objective, I would feel for Paul more at the end because I do think he kind of threw Georgia under the bus a bit by divorcing her before the thing was over, or like announcing it. But why do you think that she's able to open up to Joe more than she is even Zion?
Because of Lynette. Oh.
So if she meets Joe's mother, she'll stop?
No, it's not that. But like, from the time that her and Zion was together, Lynette was so outspoken about her thoughts regarding Georgia, her not feeling good enough, and then Lynette doing things that, buying the groceries or making these comments, and you never saw Zion stick up for her. Never, right? And
sometimes,
so
but not in front of her even, really. More so grown up Zion today, but not usually, yeah.
Work with couples all day long. And the biggest part of trust is, do you have my back? Can I trust you to defend me, to support me, in us and also amongst others, right? I mean, and they're babies. They're babies trying to, have this relationship. And, Lynette is larger than life, but you still see her showing up, crossing boundaries, and Zion just sitting there silent. And I think that was a big part of why, like, that emotional trust and safety is like, oh, like, I know that you'll try to be there for me and the kids if you're in the country, but I know that there's a limit to it. Like, you'll stop in the face of your mom. Like, you'll fold when it comes to your mom. Like, you're not going to prioritize me and what I want and what I think is best over your mom. You're just not. And with any couple, I feel that that is one of those foundational truths that needs to be, like, solid. I need to know that I can trust you no matter what. With Joe, obviously we don't have, like, that whole backstory. I mean, outside of, like, when they met and then the whole horse thing, whatnot.
I do think that's it. I do think that's the whole backstory. Okay. Like, they met, and then
maybe that is the whole backstory, right? But I mean, there hasn't been an opportunity for Joe not to have her back. Joe came in the rain to show up for her. Like, he's just always been there, just very steady, right? Granted, they were not in a marriage like her and Paul. Like, Paul, you showed up to a certain point and then he stopped. You know what I mean? So there you go. Like, oh, I can't trust you to fully be there for me even if you don't like me right now.
Could I say quickly, though, that, like, she didn't tell Paul everything before he did that. Like, in the season finale, or even in the beginning, he said to her, have you told me everything? Multiple times before he walked away, and she still chose not to.
Yeah,
and so I'm curious about what made her not. I think it's because she still felt like for these men to love, like, I have to be this person, this character, for him to be his wife. She didn't trust that he would love the raw version of her, is what I think it is, right?
I have to be who you need me to be. Because the mayoress and her still calling and talking about doing this, like, she wants to show that she has value by doing things, because that's her definition of love too, doing things for other people. But, like, when there's nothing that can be done, when it's just you and your truth, who accepts it? So when she tells Joe, like, oh, I did this and this, and he blinks and he's like, okay. It's like there was just, not saying that there's no hesitation, but it's just like, okay. And she knows that he ain't gonna say nothing.
But whole time Paul knew too, but you ain't want to trust that. He was he paying for a lawyer out of pocket, like, he's doing all these things.
I mean, yes. But once again, the inception of their relationship was for a purpose. She wanted to be the mayor's wife for a reason. It wasn't like natural happenstance versus with Joe.
Yeah, it wasn't as organic. I do think that she was surprised when Paul told her he knew that he killed him and was right and knew that the whole time.
Very surprised.
She was very surprised, because I do think that she thought that his love was not unconditional. She thought it was conditional. And I think I was surprised because, like, oh, maybe his love was it was unconditional, except, well, his condition was, you have to be honest with me. And she could not abide by that. And I think what I enjoy about it, even though it's so sad, is that I don't think it's realistic for Georgia to get into that marriage and it to succeed before she's worked through her stuff. Like the relationship you have to go through to see all the flaws that you have to work through so that you don't do it in the next marriage, hopefully, or you don't carry it on. But I think that because she's just starting to work through her stuff and she didn't start to work through it till Paul left, like, is why I hope her and Joe taking some time. I think they left it at like, I gotta put my kids first. I've always had a man beside me. I gotta put my kids first. And they're taking some time. But I hope that she grows in that time and that Joe's the long game if she manages to heal and, you know, and not carry on that mistrust into their relationship. Because like to your point, it's easy when it's some escapades here and there. It's low stakes. But when he's your husband or your boyfriend, those things will show up again.
It's accountability, you know? And I think that as messed up as the situation with her and Paul, I feel like that was like a sparkling moment for her to realize, oh, I can be with somebody who would have my back through it all. Because she defaulted to, well, you weren't there, you left me alone, just a fear of abandonment and all of that. Like she will leave before somebody can leave her, but he was just like, I was there, I did this, I knew, I had your back, but you didn't hold your end of the bargain. And in that moment it's like, oh, that self-sabotage. I self-sabotage, but this was a possibility for somebody to see my flaws and to see, and I think that will be the difference going into season 3. I will say this though, we know that Good Sis is preggers, and
Who's
so
preggers?
Georgia.
Oh yes, that is how it ended, child. How many pregnancies have you got?
I have no idea.
Who is the daddy?
Let me tell you something. I want us to wrap up by talking about who you think the daddy is and what should they name the baby, since it's all about the city.
I need Georgia to stop having these kids, baby. Her 2 kids
Who's
are
the baby daddy?
Enough.
Who's the baby daddy?
Well, she's only slept with, it's either Paul or Joe, right? Those are the people she slept with, right? I'm just making sure I didn't miss a scene. Like, she didn't sleep with Zion.
No.
Right? Zion got him a good black woman now. Okay, listen, I know Lynette is thrilled, but that's another
she don't know how to act. Done took her shopping with Ginny. My God.
Like, my prayers have been answered, Father God. I've been praying for 15 years. Anyway.
Simone can do no wrong. So who's the baby daddy? Well, let me count it down. So I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, and we're both going to say the name of who we think the baby daddy is, okay? 3,
No, 2, wait.
3, 2, 1.
Paul.
Joe.
I wanted it to be Joe, but I feel like it'd be messy if it was Paul. Like,
especially if they want to keep him around.
That's what I was thinking. That's the way to keep the actor around, and Joe will still be around. That's what made me say that. Like, literally, it's like the way to keep the actor around. Also, because I think it would rush her and Joe in a way that they don't deserve to be rushed. Like, okay. I think that it would force them into something that would, like, dull out the love story that it could be. And I don't like that. Like, I want them to be together, but I don't want them to be together because they have this baby.
Got it.
I think that pressure would... I know.
It has to... I want to say...
What I want to say about this, I'll have to say off camera. But I don't say that much. What I really have to say about this is what I want to say off camera. But what is the baby's name? We don't know if it's a boy or girl.
It don't matter. But it's going to be named after the city because that's the theme. So if it's Wellsbury.
Is Ginny Georgia too?
Virginia.
Austin.
And Austin.
Well, where is Wellsbury? I guess Wells. I guess Wells could be a name. Or Barry.
Wellesley.
What, Wesley? I like Wells. Wells. I know a Wells. Okay.
I thought about Wellesley, like Wellsie. I don't know. Barry.
Yeah. Or Barry. That's I don't know. I mean, maybe. Yeah, I guess it would have had to be conceived in Wellsbury no matter what. But Virginia is a state. That's why I'm asking, what state is Wellsbury in? Did they say they're in Connecticut? Boston?
Boston is a city.
Well, I mean, like, does Zion live in Boston and they're in Massachusetts? I guess it's like, because Zion lives in the city of the area and they live in a suburb. And I'm trying to think, like, is it Massachusetts? That doesn't make it any easier. Massey?
Massey? No?
It's a little too close to master.
That's the name of the girl from not is it Game of Thrones? Game of Thrones, the one who's like the girl with no name. Anyways, I think that's her name.
Macy?
Yeah,
in her real life.
In Massachusetts.
Cass is not an easy name to. I don't know if they thought this through. Maybe because she's healed, it's not going to be based on where they're from. Maybe it's just going to be a brand new thing. Maybe it's going to be Paul Jr. because Paul comes from a long legacy of whatever. Or whatever Paul's last name is, maybe they'll do the thing where it's his last name. Because Georgia going to make her kids all have the same last name. I don't know.
Who knows?
All I know is I can't believe that this baby is a thing that's really happening. That is really... because Paul is really going to require a DNA test, her to pee on 3 sticks. At this point,
and you best believe he's going to be just like Zion, and he's going to go ahead and file for full custody or 50%.
I hope it's a joint, child, because that baby, it's a baby. What you going to do, Paul? You going to stay up and nurse that baby every night? You're probably going to hire one. But, Georgia's manipulative. She's gonna be like, I'm breastfeeding, so now what?
What about it?
Okay. This was so fun. I could honestly talk about this show forever.
I know. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for coming on and talking. I mean, this show is dear to my heart. I love this show, and I'm so grateful that you gave me your time. Please tell the people where they can find you.
Oh, I'm at Sylvia Obell on all platforms. All platforms. And sincerely, Sylvia at .substack.com is my newsletter. Subscribe. And yeah, but mostly Instagram girly. Threads is where I tweet now. And, that's where all my links to all my stories and things and projects are on there. So go on, follow me there if you're not.
Thank you. Her Substack is like pristine. I love her Substack. Woo!
Beverley is one of the people who pushed me to have a Substack, so you guys can thank her for me taking that leap.
Because the people want to hear. So thank you so much, guys. Please like and subscribe to my channel.
Yes, and add us your thoughts.
Yes.
Your thoughts,
I want to,
please.
if y'all watched it, who do y'all think is the baby daddy? Is it Joe or Paul? Please,
and what do y'all think about the Maxine situation? Is it justice for Maxine like we most think it is? I do think that. Do you want Marcus and Ginny to end up together or not?
No.
Ooh, wasn't that love poem gorgeous? I cried. I wept. The one Marcus read in the car that Ginny wrote for him on his way to rehab.
Womp.
Love is alive. Okay, because that poem was gorgeous. I rewinded it 3 times and I said, "Wow."
I like her poem.
That girl has a talent.
I liked her with Wolf better.
You mean the man who ain't want to step up to his responsibilities? The one who said and ran to his mama's van and drove away?
He responded like an appropriate teenager. Thank you guys so much. Like, subscribe, comment.
Her at the clinic. That's the man, okay? Let's let him get dry. Anyway, obviously we're never going to stop. I'm going to let Beth say her wrap up.
Appreciate you guys. Please like and subscribe and comment. And I'll see you for the next one and for season 4. So, can't wait.
Bye.